So I'm going to run through a bench press today and then like the key fundamentals of technique and cues and all that sort of thing there as well. It's going to be more of a powerlifting competition style bench press, but even if you're not competing, you're still going to get a ton of value from this, as a lot of the technique and cues that I'm going to run through, that's going to be what you're going to need to make your bench really, really strong. It's not just for if you're powerlifting. There will be rule changes if you are powerlifting and you're doing it in a competition, but if you're not, you don't really have to worry about them too much, but you're still going to get a ton of value following this setup and the cues that I'm going to run through today. But to start off with, we're going to start talking about foot position and where that needs to be to create a really strong bench. A great place to start is your feet on either side of the bench, about hip to shoulder width apart, with your feet just behind or in line with your knees. Some lifters will prefer to have their feet further forward, some slightly further back. There's no one size fits all here. It's going to be very individual and something that you're going to have to experiment with and just trial over time. The main thing we want to look for is a position for your feet that allows you to get really good leg drive, but also allows you to stay in a really good position with your arch and your upper back on the bench. Some of you may be pressing with your feet flat on the ground. That's what I do. That feels good for me. But what some lifters might do as well, if their feet, especially if they're further back, then that might be where your heels actually come off the ground a little bit. As long as you can still get leg drive, that's totally fine. The only other thing to note though is if you are competing in a powerlifting competition, some federations and some competitions won't allow you to have your feet off the ground or the heel off the ground. You need to have your foot fully on the ground the whole time. So check what sort of federation and comp you're going to be going into. Just make sure you're practicing within the rules for your competition if you are looking to compete in the future as well. But if you're not, then just go over whichever foot position gives you the best leg drive and gets you into the best position possible as well. Before I get into the full setup and leg drive, arching and all that sort of stuff, we're just going to talk about how to grip the bar, but also where to grip the bar as well. If you're just starting out, I would set your hands just outside shoulder width. If you're looking at it from the back, your wrist should be roughly stacked over your elbows. Once you've got a little bit more experience, you might find that you feel stronger and you can press from a slightly stronger position with your hands a little further out, or maybe even a little narrower than what I've just recommended here. That's totally fine. It's going to be one of those things that's very similar to the foot position, very, very individual. And over time, you'll find the one that feels best for you. If you do have a coach, this is going to be really helpful because they're going to be able to see where you're pressing at the moment and where you'll most likely be a little bit stronger from as well with that hand position, but also the foot position as well. So when it comes to gripping the bar, we want the bar to be resting on the meaty part of your hand with the hands slightly angled in. It will feel a little bit awkward at first. That's going to be very normal, very fine. The main thing we want to avoid here though is resting the bar like across your knuckles or in the middle part of your hand. That's going to bend your wrist back and put a lot of pressure on your wrist there. Even me doing this with 20 kilos, I can already feel a ton of pressure going through my wrists. So like I said, what we want to do, dig it into your thumb like that, twist the hands in slightly so it's resting on that meaty part of your hand at the bottom near the thumb, and then coming up like that. It will feel awkward at first. That's going to be fine. It's very, very normal. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become in that position. But that's going to allow us to stack those weights over that wrist in a healthy way to where we're not just putting loads of pressure through the wrist. So now that you've got your foot position and your grip all sorted, the first place we want to start with the setup is planting the feet in your foot position. Really important we keep them here. We don't start to move them around. You're going to lose your position like that. So plant your feet, sit on the very end of the bench, lie down. It's fine if you're not in position yet. You're going to grab that bar from here. You want to push your legs into the floor, sliding yourself back. As you do this, think about pushing your chest and sternum up to the ceiling or to the bar until you're in position, unrack, and then let your hips come down. As you slide back, think about pushing up into the bar with your hands so your upper back gets jammed into the bench, all while pushing your chest or your sternum up towards the bar and the roof. Your bum's going to come off here, that's fine. You want to stop when your eyes are either underneath the bar or just slightly out in front. From here, unrack, and then slowly lower your bum to the bench, doing your best to maintain as much of that chest and sternum height that you've just created for yourself. Leg drive is going to start from the moment that you sit down on the bench. Basically, as soon as you've planted those feet in that start position, they're not going to come up or move until you've finished your whole set. You want to think about pushing your toes through the front of your shoes or just pushing the mats on the ground away from you. And not just with your heels, as driving through the heels alone can make your bum start to come up off the bench, which we don't want, especially if you're competing in a powerlifting competition. So now it's time to unrack the bar. You want to run through your setup, pushing your toes through your shoes, chest reaching up towards the bar, and then upper back getting tight and getting pushed into the bench. From here, before your bum comes down, slowly straighten your arms and lift the bar off the hooks without losing that upper back tension. Once it clears the rack, guide it out slowly into position, making sure just not to rush this process. And then from here, lower your bum down to the bench, doing your best to maintain as much of your chest height and arch as possible. So you can do what we call like a self unrack, like what I just did there in that video where I'm unracking it by myself, or you can get someone else in the gym to come and help you unrack. If you're gonna go over the assisted unrack, go through your same setup, and then when you're ready, give them a nod or a signal that you're ready, and they'll take a small amount of that weight and help guide that bar out into position for you. It's super important though that they don't take too much of that weight, as that can either pull you out of position, but it can also, when they let go of that bar, it can be a bit of a shock to the body of how much weight you've actually got in your hands. So they're just gonna be taking a small amount of that weight and helping guide you out into position. You're still doing most of the work though. Another thing to note is that you're not coming down too fast to where you lose that position as well. And then also not too slow to where you're just unnecessarily fatiguing yourself. So it's just finding that happy medium between not going too fast, but then not too slow as well. And then I like to do a light touch, not letting that bar sink into your chest, as this can result in a loss of position. If you're competing in powerlifting, you do have to give this a short pause on the chest, enough for the bar to fully stop. So 1 to 2 seconds is gonna be more than enough. If you're not competing in powerlifting, then I just like to go over controlled touch and go. It doesn't have to be a super long pause or anything, just long enough to where that bar rests for like half a second or a second, and then you're pressing back up under good control. The main thing is that you're just not bouncing that bar and just using momentum to get through your reps. So the bar path should be slightly diagonal. You want to bring that bar down somewhere within that range there, and then pressing slightly back towards the rack. The arch that you create during your setup, this is going to help put all of your pressing muscles into a really strong pressing position, and that's why I want a slight angle back. If you try and press straight up, it's just not going to be as strong. It's going to feel a bit awkward as well, especially as those weights start to climb up as well. Bracing on a bench is going to be very, very different to your squats and your deadlifts. It's actually the opposite of what we want. The breathing is going to be very, very similar, but arching in the general position is actually the opposite. Whereas on your squat and deadlift, we want like a more of a stacked rib cage. In your bench, we actually want to flare everything, and that's where your arch comes into place. The breathing is going to be very, very similar. So what you want to do is basically, as you're sat on the end of the bench, you're going to slide back, pushing your chest up, getting into that arch. But as you do all of this, you want to be slowly breathing in, filling up your rib cage, filling up your chest with air. And then once you've unracked the bar, don't take another breath here. You want to hold all of that air in to keep you in that really strong position here. And if you can, I would hold it throughout your whole set or for multiple reps if you can. At first, you're definitely going to have to breathe between a few reps here. That's fine. I would just start with like doing 2 reps where you're holding your breath and then take air, and then slowly progress that to maybe 3, 4 reps, 5 if you can, even 6, depending on your tempo and variations that you're doing here. Reason being, every single time you breathe between your reps, you're gonna lose tension, lose your position, and lose your arch. And you're never gonna be able to recreate as much tightness in your initial setup once you're underneath the bar in your hands. I will touch on the arching a little bit. Everyone's always asking, is it cheating? Is it not cheating? Look, if you're competing in powerlifting, then definitely use an arch. It's within the rules and everyone else is gonna be competing with an arch. So there's no point putting a limit or capping your strength by just being stubborn and not lifting with an arch. And even if you're not competing, I still recommend you have an arch. It might not need to be as big as a powerlifting arch, or you might not need to focus on it as much as they do, but it's still going to put you into a really strong pressing position for your bench. And as long as you're not getting any sort of discomfort or niggling pains in your back or anywhere else from arching, then just go for it. Just a few final things. I would recommend you using chalk, whether that's liquid chalk or powdered chalk. It's going to help just get a slightly better and stronger grip on the bar, especially on those heavier sets. You don't want it sliding around, especially if your bar is pretty old and it doesn't have very good grip on it. Some benches are going to be very slippery as well, depending where you're training, and it can just have you sliding around, just not feeling that you can get your upper back as locked in. So I will just loop a few small resistance bands around it, and that's just going to give you slightly better grip. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over today. So thanks for watching this. There's obviously a lot of things I've gone over there. So go back, watch the key areas and parts of the video that you feel that you need to revisit and just work on. One final takeaway and just like last little bit of advice I'll give you guys is just to really practice these cues, these techniques, drill them in on your warm-ups, in your deload weeks, on your heavy bench days, lighter bench days. Just the more you practice it, the better you're gonna get and the stronger you'll get quicker as well over time. Basically, so by the time that you max out in the gym or you step onto the platform and touch a weight that you haven't touched before, you're gonna have to think a little bit less about all the cues, techniques, and position. And at that stage, it will be becoming a lot more automatic to you, which is gonna make you a lot stronger when you've got weight in your hands that you've never touched before. If you do have any questions or you are looking for a coach, then go to my Instagram. I've linked it down below in the caption. Send me a message over there and I can answer any questions that you have, or I can chat to you about coaching and what that would look like for you. But again, thanks for watching this video and I'll see you in a future video.